One of the things that I love is waking up in the morning and you look outside and you're in Uganda. Oh, nice.
Hello, my name's Iveoma and I'm obsessed with telling the stories of Africans in the diaspora who are building businesses in Africa. I attended the Moving Back to Africa event held at the Ugandan Embassy in New York, and I was intrigued for two reasons, really. Any Move Back to Africa event I have to go to, clearly. And right now, a lot of news that's coming out of Uganda is not very positive. And I wanted to hear straight from Ugandans what was happening on ground. I wanted to see if the news was preventing Ugandans from moving back. And when I went into that room, it was truly packed. I was only able to stay for 2.5 hours. I learned so much, and you will too. So this video is just going to focus on how you can move to Africa, how you can move to Uganda, and the things that you need to prepare for. Everything is coming up.
I did prepare. I really prepared as much as I could, psychologically, mentally, but also financially, and then also with the stepping in for a bit. So I moved home to Uganda and lived there for about 3 months. I got a job which wasn't paying much, but it was a job that got me to meet people and get to know how people operate.
I think you know, in terms of returning to your country, and I'll use Uganda as an example. However, you know, speaking about the African continent as a whole, there are many things that I did that helped me, you know, when I was going back to start a company, when I was going back to work for the ministry. And you really do have to think thoughtfully through it, I think, to make your landing smoother. And going, you know, towards the family aspect of it, in my case, my family was my asset. Like, they were very helpful. Like, all my cousins on the ground, and I have millions of cousins, are very helpful, getting me around the country, introducing me to people, helping me with resources. You need to think about your shelter. I think that's one of the big things. Like, where are you going to live? Are you going to stay with family? Are you going to stay on your own? Do you have the resources to stay on your own to get a place? What are the, you know, talk to people about what does it take to get your own place? Is there a down payment? How much is it? Is it 6 months? Is it 1 year? Those things are very different from here. You know, getting credit is very different from here. Do you have the papers? Do you have the background? Do you have the assets? You have to think about, you know, making sure that you have transport. So whatever you're going to do, are you comfortable using public transportation? Are you comfortable jumping on a boat? Will you have a car? You know, you're not going to be, it's very difficult to kind of lease or rent a car for that long-term period. So if you're interested in buying a car, do you have the cash on hand? You're not going to be able to really finance it. So you have to think about those things as you go forward. Cash. Are you going to open a bank account? Are you going to, you know, where are you going to put your money? Are you going to try to transfer money? How much can you transfer from the U.S. to Uganda, you know, without getting into any issues or tax implications, et cetera, et cetera? Are you going to just carry a suitcase, which I don't advise? You know, but I mean, like, what are you going to do with money? How are you going to take your money? How are you going to use your money? How are you going to open a bank account? I was fortunate to open an account, for example, at DFCU, where they had like online banking, and I was lucky enough to know, get introduced to a branch manager who kind of walked me through the process. And if I didn't have, for example, my Ugandan passport, it would have been very difficult and it would have taken much longer. So think about those things. In terms of preparation for yourself mentally and being in an environment that may be a little bit different in terms of, you know, even being a female in Uganda or being a male, and you just understand the politics of the day.
Don't fully understand the language. I know you do, but we don't. So what would you say the biggest hurdle would be for us if we do decide, and is that something that we should prepare ourselves before we even think about moving back home, if that does happen in the future?
So I don't think it's going to be a barrier. English is widely spoken. I mean, even, you know, surprisingly, in many even remote areas, English is very widely spoken. I do feel like you should, you know, it would be very helpful to understand, you know, one of the Ugandan languages. There are many Ugandan languages, Luganda being probably the most popular in terms of modern usage. And then even a little bit of Swahili doesn't help. But I mean, in terms of getting around, I think you're fine with English. But it does help if you're going to markets or if you're negotiating, and you know, even though you may know how to count in Luganda, when they start doing slang and the money, it's like a different world, right? It's like, yeah, it's a totally different world. So but you'll pick it up as you get there. But it is helpful for like a lot of the bartering you're gonna do in terms of purchasing things and negotiating. Your accent will probably give it away anyway, so your price will be higher. But you can again, that's where a lot of family comes in, and it's very helpful to have someone with you when you're doing such transactions. New Vision, read The Monitor, read Red Pepper for entertainment purposes, read Bukete. Bukete.com is Luganda. I think it's in Luganda, the newspaper, and it helped me with my language skills. And I would read New Vision and read The Monitor. So I read the articles in English, and then I'd read them in Luganda, the same article. So it helped me with the words, pronunciation, understanding how to write, using 2 Ds, 2 Ms, 2 S's, 2 J's, judge, like all these different things. And that was very, very helpful. So understand the politics of the day, know, what the emergency numbers are, know if your phone's going to work. Are you going to get a SIM card? Are you going to use your American phone? How long will that last? And all those different nuances when you're there. You're going to see a lot of people with like 2 or 3 phones. Like everyone has like 2 or 3 phones or dual SIMs because they use different networks, and calling on the same network is free. It's a very different model from what we have here. So you have to really think about that. And a lot of the times your Verizon phone, if it's not unlocked, or T-Mobile or whatever you have here, will not work there. So there's very small things that can make your life much more convenient if you think thoughtfully and plan for it.
You can build a network of Ugandans who have moved back, like getting all the information, so that in the future, if someone wants to move back, knows who to reach or who to contact. And Ruth talked about attending events like conventions. We have lawmakers from Uganda showing up. We always complain about them. I've complained about them too. You can have 40 members of parliament. You have a speaker of parliament. People who you don't have access to in Uganda. We have Trade and Investment Forum in UNA, for instance. If you want to move back, these are the connections you have to build. I always go to those functions and they're empty. We have this database. And the government can help us. There's a national diaspora policy. If you guys take time, look for that. Uganda actually has a national diaspora policy. It hasn't been passed yet, but there's a lot of important information in that.